In recent years, Europe's relationship with Russia has undergone one of the most dramatic transformations in modern geopolitical history. Borders that once felt open are now tightening, and policies that once supported deep economic partnership have been replaced by sanctions, restrictions, and strategic disengagement. At the center of this shift are the energy ties that shaped decades of cooperation between Moscow and Europe. For years, Russian oil and gas moved freely into European economies, giving Russia not only revenue but also political leverage. Today, that era is ending. Visa restrictions, refinery takeovers, and sweeping policy changes are reshaping the continent's energy map. This script explores how that transformation unfolded, why many European governments are distancing themselves from Russian energy companies, and how the decisions of countries from Bulgaria to Germany and from Serbia to Azerbaijan reflect a broader global realignment driven by security concerns, economic pressures, and new legal frameworks introduced by the United States. Europe's energy reset. Europe's move away from Russian energy did not happen overnight. For years, European leaders expressed concern about relying heavily on a single supplier, especially one whose political decisions created uncertainty and risk. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine accelerated those concerns and led to a coordinated effort to reduce dependence on Russian oil and gas. Many of the tools Europe used, such as tightened visa rules, sanctions, and infrastructure modernization, were aimed at protecting energy markets from disruption. In this environment, Russia's once powerful position as a key energy provider has weakened dramatically. European countries that previously counted on Russian fuel have diversified their supply chains, secured alternative routes, and built partnerships designed to prevent future vulnerability. As these policies took effect, the influence Russia once held through energy exports diminished sharply. Bulgaria's decisive move. One of the most striking examples of this shift can be seen in Bulgaria. The country hosts the Lukoil refinery, the largest in the Balkans and historically controlled by Russian interests. Given Bulgaria's dependence on this facility for most of its fuel supply, upcoming sanctions created a serious dilemma. If Bulgaria continued working with Russian-controlled entities, it risked facing international penalties that could undermine its economy. If it cut ties immediately, the country risked running out of fuel. To prevent instability, Bulgaria introduced legislation giving the government the authority to temporarily assume control of the refinery and ensure uninterrupted supply. Military, police, and security systems were deployed, not because of expected conflict, but to maintain order during the transition. Russian diplomats expressed concern, calling the move unprecedented. Yet for Bulgarian officials, protecting national security and energy stability took priority, illustrating how geopolitical pressures can force even long-standing partners to make difficult decisions. The domino effect across Europe. Bulgaria's decision did not occur in isolation. Similar debates emerged across Europe as governments worked to adapt to new U.S. legal frameworks targeting companies linked to Russia's energy sector. These rules created a complex choice: continue operating with Russian partners and absorb the economic consequences, or restructure the sector to avoid sanctions. Germany, for instance, placed the major Schwedt refinery, partly owned by Rosneft, under state administration in 2022. More recently, discussions have intensified around fully nationalizing the refinery to prevent disruption. When new restrictions take effect, Romania faces a comparable situation as its energy ministry considers taking control of Lukoil's subsidiary to safeguard domestic fuel supplies. These actions reflect a broader European consensus. Long-term energy security must outweigh dependence on companies vulnerable to sanctions or geopolitical instability. Slovakia's shift and the Hungarian divide. Among Russia's traditional partners in Central Europe, Slovakia and Hungary stand out for choosing different paths. Slovakia, heavily reliant on Russian gas for decades, moved quickly to secure alternatives. Working with Poland, it strengthened interconnections that provide access to non-Russian energy sources. Slovak officials stated openly that alternative supply routes would prevent the country from becoming vulnerable to outside pressure. Hungary, by contrast, has taken a more cautious approach. While acknowledging Europe's changing energy landscape, Hungary has maintained long-standing ties with Russian suppliers and advocates for continued cooperation. U.S. officials have encouraged Budapest to diversify more rapidly, emphasizing the risks of overdependence. The differing strategies of Slovakia and Hungary demonstrate how countries within the same region can respond differently to geopolitical uncertainty, shaped by their economic needs and political priorities. Serbia's challenging crossroads. Serbia faces one of the most complicated situations in the region due to the structure of its national oil company, NIS, which is partly owned by Russian state entities. Because of this ownership, Serbia's access to oil transported through neighboring Croatia became restricted under European rules. Reports from Belgrade indicated interruptions at gas stations where some international payment systems stopped functioning because of sanctions. These developments created pressure on Serbia's leadership to reassess its position. Government officials acknowledged that supplies were limited and that the country had only a short window to secure alternative arrangements. In response, Serbia signaled a willingness to reconsider policies that previously aligned closely with Moscow. A phone call between Serbian and Ukrainian leaders highlighted a shift toward broader regional cooperation, and the government expressed openness to aligning more closely with European energy standards. This shift does not represent hostility toward any particular country, but reflects Serbia's need to maintain economic stability in a rapidly changing environment. China and India's adjustments. Russia's strategy to redirect its energy exports toward Asia faced new challenges as several major buyers reassessed their positions. Reports from international energy agencies indicated that some large state-owned refiners in China temporarily reduced purchases of certain Russian crude grades because of concerns about sanctions and shipping risks. Private refiners expressed similar caution. While China continues to buy Russian energy, the reductions illustrate how global markets respond swiftly to legal and logistical uncertainties. India's situation presents a comparable trend. Some of the country's largest refiners reportedly paused or reduced purchases from Russian suppliers covered by sanctions. This shift allowed other major oil producers, including Saudi Arabia, to expand their market share by offering competitive pricing. India's decisions, like China's, reflect practical concerns about compliance, financing, and long-term predictability. Turkey and regional refineries. Adapt Turkey, another important market in Russia's energy strategy, has also diversified its energy imports. According to industry analyses, several Turkish refiners have increased their purchases from Iraq, Kazakhstan, Brazil, and other producers to avoid disruptions in their ability to supply European markets. These changes do not signify political conflict, but rather reflect commercial calculations. To continue exporting refined products to Europe, Turkish companies must comply with European frameworks, and this encourages a gradual shift away from Russian crude together. The trends in China, India, and Turkey demonstrate how global markets adapt quickly when legal or financial environments change, placing pressure on suppliers to adjust to Azerbaijan's strategic realignment. Azerbaijan, located in the South Caucasus, has long balanced relationships with both Russia and Western institutions. Recent developments suggest that balance is shifting. Reports indicate that Azerbaijani ports have limited the entry of certain Russian oil shipments, redirecting them through alternative routes. At the same time, Azerbaijan has deepened cooperation with the NATO countries, updating military standards and expanding partnerships. During meetings with NATO delegations, Azerbaijani leaders emphasized their commitment to modernizing defense structures and strengthening ties with their regional partners, especially Turkey. While Russia describes the region as stable due to its efforts, the strategic decisions taken by Azerbaijan signal a broader shift toward alignment with Western institutions. These developments underline how quickly geopolitical dynamics can evolve in the South Caucasus when security and economic interests change. Economic pressures inside Russia. The global reduction in purchases of Russian crude has created significant economic pressures. Analysts have documented a growing volume of Russian oil stored at sea on tankers waiting for buyers. When exports slow, prices decline, and discounted sales reduce revenue available for domestic programs. This situation affects multiple sectors. Oil revenue has historically supported pensions, infrastructure, and social services in Russia. When export income drops, budgets tighten and industries face challenges maintaining operations. Reports from several industrial regions indicate that factories dependent on state support or energy-related revenue have struggled, leading in some cases to temporary shutdowns or reduced work hours. Communities built around single industries are especially vulnerable. These economic pressures are not unique to Russia. Many resource-dependent countries face similar risks when global markets shift suddenly. The broader picture illustrates how closely national budgets, local economies, and international trade are connected. The end of an era for Europe-Russia energy relations. Russia's long-standing role as Europe's primary energy supplier has changed fundamentally. Policies introduced in the United States, Europe, and other regions have reshaped international energy flows, creating incentives for diversification and reducing dependence on specific suppliers. Countries such as Bulgaria, Romania, Germany, Slovakia, and Serbia have each taken steps, some rapid, some cautious, to protect their energy security amid shifting regulations. Major Asian buyers have adjusted their purchases, contributing to a more complex and competitive global market. Even regional partners like Azerbaijan are exploring new strategic paths. These developments mark the end of a period in which Russian energy exports served as a foundation for economic and political relations across Europe. What emerges now is a landscape defined by diversification, alternative supply routes, and new partnerships. Conclusion: a new geopolitical landscape. The changes unfolding in Europe and beyond are part of a broader global realignment driven by security concerns, energy policy, and evolving alliances. The era when Russian oil and gas dominated European markets has given way to a more distributed and resilient system. For Russia, the challenge lies in adapting to reduced access to traditional markets while managing the economic pressures that result from lower export revenues. For Europe, the challenge is building long-term stability and reliable supply chains. For countries between these spheres, such as Serbia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, the decisions ahead require balancing historical ties with new economic realities. While the geopolitical consequences are still unfolding, one thing is clear: the energy landscape that defined decades of relations between Europe and Russia has been transformed, and nations across the world are adjusting to a new era of interdependence, risk management, and strategic calculation.